the immense satisfaction and self-enjoyment you can get from making a piece of machinery with a machine that you made yourself can never ever be underestimated, I think. G'day, welcome back to part 5 of my milling machine build. If you missed part 4, you can see that there's a link there for you. I'd like to welcome aboard all my new subscribers, and I hope you enjoy the content on my channel. Well, when I left you in part 4, I about half finished the spindle, and I need to drill it out and then spin it around and get onto the other end. But I'm going to have to come up with something to drill the back end of it out. So follow me over to the lathe and we'll get on with it. I've always subscribed to where there's a will, there's a way. And this is the way I'm going to try and do it. I'm not 100% happy with it. I've used a normal tool holder that has a groove down in here, and because it's a 7/16 drill, it's not really sitting in the groove, it's just off to one side a little bit, so it's maybe not clamped in there as well as I would have liked. What I did prior to this was, while I still had the tailstock in here, was I got the longest drill I could possibly get into the chuck, which was 6mm, and drill it as deep as I could, try and help this out a bit. But anyway, I've had a little test drill here and it seems to be working okay, but I can only go slow and I only want to go slow, so we'll give it a whirl and you can see what happens. Well, this is going to take a long time because I've got to get all the way up to here, so I'll bring you back later. Well, there you have it, viewers. That's up in there a full 100mm now, so time to get the hell out of there. It's taken me a fair while and it's red hot. I actually stopped for about half an hour and let it cool down for a while. It's a little crunchy right up the top end there. I was sort of wishing early on that I hadn't drilled up in there with that pilot drill, because it was having a real song and dance until I got to the end of that, and then from that point onwards it cut really nicely. The last inch or so, inch and a half maybe, I was only drilling maybe 5, 6, 7mm at a time, backing it out and cleaning it up, back in there again. But that's that done now. From the other end I can come in with 2 bigger drills, which will make life easier, but I'm about 10mm past halfway now, so that'll make the other end easier. Get on with the rest of it. Alrighty, so I've spun this around, spent forever tramming it into the forge jaw, and I've got to get this down to 38mm, which is a sealing surface. 38mm, this one here goes in there. So that'll have to be a really nice finish. It's 39 a bit at the moment, so we'll get it down to 38. I'll have to polish it up nicely. I forgot that I said I was going to try those reamers out on something else, but luckily I'll just unbolt the whole bloody thing and take it off and put the 3-jaw back on to do that. So while I've got this in here, and I'll drill the holes and dress all this up, get that done, then I'll throw the 3-jaw back in and do some trial cutting of those reamers. .15 to come yet. .38.02, that'll do me. We'll polish it up a bit.
drill some holes. Alrighty, we now have a hollow spindle. Well, I've just had a look at the time. It's actually a Saturday today and my daughter's at school, believe it or not. Amazing Thailand. But anyway, so that's all the way through now, so we've got a hole all the way up through there. And she has an early finish today, so I'm going to have to think about cleaning up, waiting for her to ring me and say, yeah, come get me, I'm finished. So we'll get back into this again tomorrow.
Just doing a little editing yesterday afternoon and noticed how bad the finish was on that thing, but so I came out and polished it up some more, but see a reflection in it now. Much better. I'll tell you what, I'll be glad when this is finished, because I had another shocking night last night. I spent half the night designing and machining parts in my head, because there's a few more bits to go with this spindle yet. But anyway, we'll press on with it. I'll get this chuck off here and do some test reaming with those tapered reamers and see how it goes. Well viewers, I've been stuffing around with this all day, and those reamers, they're next to useless, and in the end I've played around with boring it out, and I didn't think I had enough travel in my compound slide, but I do, only just, and I've got to hang the boring bar out a long way. In fact, I'll zoom this back out, move the tripod, you can see there's the boring bar hanging out there. Got a little bit of run out in it, but this is only the sample one, so I'll just have to be a little more careful with the other one. And I'm glad that I didn't try to set this up in that spindle, because I've had to chop a piece off the front of that once, because I'd gotten too big. There's the piece I chopped off the front, and then started again. But I finally got that right. I actually put this in the chuck this morning and trammed it up to get the angle right. But yeah, we're there. So I've had a gutful for one day. It's Sunday, it must be rest day surely. So tomorrow morning I'll have a go at doing the main spindle. Alrighty, so this morning I've retrammed everything, got it all set up, and I've done some manual passes up through the inside to take out all the steps from the 3 different size drills in there. And I'm on to my final passes, and I've put my power feedback on. A little bit underpowered this thing, sometimes it'll slow it down to stop, and turn it up a little bit, it'll start again. But anyway, we'll get it going again. Doesn't half sing with that thing sticking out that far. I'll clean this up and see how it goes. Well, it fits good. It needs a bit more taken out of it yet, so we'll take another couple of cuts and see how we go. Well, that's not good. That D16 taper in the back end of this, there's a fair bit of run out in it. I'm just toying with the idea of maybe trying to machine that and see if we can get rid of this, or whether I should just order another one and hope it's a better quality than that rubbish there. It was only a cheap Chinese thing, because once I put it up into the mill it'll be a different story. Oh well, I shall go and ponder that one. Well, I've said it before, where there's a will, there's a way. The B16 taper is the same taper as basically as the Morse taper too. It's apparently meant to be the short end, the B18's the big end. But anyway, I just took a skim up there with the boring bar, took a skim off it, polished it back up, and we're down to only about 3 to 4 microns. The way that's hunting carry on. This is not the greatest gauge either, but 3 to 400. That's a whole lot better than it was, and I might just have to live with that, because these are just cheap Chinese things anyway. I get the same reading on the outside. Alrighty, my apologies if you can hear the fan in the camera, but it is stinking hot here today. Alright, now I can get on with the 2 parts that have kept me awake every night for the last week, thinking about them. There's a seal to go in here. This is the top where the pulley will mount here. The seal will go in here, and you'll notice that the seal, the idea of the seal is bigger than that shaft, and that the reason for that is, I'll get that out of there again. I need to be able to press down on this bearing and tension it up. So
what I'm going to do is make a sleeve. It'll be like a T shape. So the outer diameter of that will be the idea of this, and the idea of the sleeve will be 20mm, or just be bigger. And then over the top of that, because I can't cut threads, and I just decided I couldn't be bothered buying a 20mm die nut and then a handle to drive it and a 20mm tap to tap the nut with, and never use it again. So what I've managed to do is make a ring and slit it, put a clamp bolt in it, and in that there will be 2 grub screws which will, once this is, like, you push it down as tight as you can get it, clamp it up, and the 2 grub screws will allow me to tension this up some more and make sure I got the right, get all the play out of the bearings. So that's the next cab off the rink. I'll get on with them. Alrighty, so I haven't bothered to video much of this because old mate's got his music blaring away over the road. But this little bit's done now, and I've just got to part it off. Just of late I've been having a bit of success parting with this big gate hinge live centre of mine up in there. So let's have a go. She is, ain't picking it up, it'll be hot as hell. Winner winner, chicken dinner. Well, there's that first one. I'll finish this one off and I'll put it back in, clean this out. Didn't have to do much to this. I bored both at the same time because they're both going on the same shaft. Just tied it outside up a little bit. So we'll have a go at parting this one off. Another winner. Thought that let go a second ago. Oh, it did. Alrighty, so there we have it. We have a seal. This thing fits into the seal. Goes in there. Seal goes, pushes in it. Obviously, this needs to have a cut, a flat machine into it, and a bolt put in there to clamp it all. So this will sit down on the bearing, push down on it, and this will lock tight, and then a couple of screws in it to push down on that and pull the bearing up. Well, I think that's enough for one day, and I'll get back into it again tomorrow. Well, viewers, I spent a fair bit of time pondering this thing last night. My original intention was to put a 6mm bolt in through it. Just put the one cut through here so I can clamp it, which meant milling out a section here for the head of the bolt. But the head of a 6mm bolt is 10mm. And by the time you cut into here 10mm, there's not much left over the side here. So I'm not convinced it's a great thing to do, but I'm going to go down to a 5mm bolt, which only has an 8mm head, and I'll put a small cut in this side as well to help pull it up so I don't have to crank it up too tight. Strip the damn thing out, so I'll get on with that. Well, that seems to hold alright. I didn't put the little cut on the other side, and all I've done there is, rather than, I haven't put the screws in here, the jacking screws, I don't know that I need them. All I did there was sit that over on the milling table, nip this up a little, and then put a deep wall socket over it and give a bit of a tap until it went up tight, and then finish nipping it up. But that's with no grease or anything in it, runs pretty well. So all I need to do to this now is drill and tap these, and then I can do, I've cut it off to figure out what length I want to cut that off, and then I can do something about welding it onto the backing plate. Well viewers, there you have it, all clamped up in place. I've clamped my old 3-jaw chuck onto here, and then run a square across the top of that to make sure it's square with all of this. And then I've clamped the spindle into that chuck to make sure it's all nice and perpendicular, and just backed it over until it's sitting up against the that back ring there. Actually, it looks like it needs to come this way a little, but I'll adjust that in a second. So I'm just going to tack it all in place, and then over on the old bench I've got a mock-up of this with 4 holes drilled in it. So I'll unbolt all of this and go and bolt it to that, so that when I finish welding it, hopefully it won't distort too much. So I'll get it all off there and get on with that. Absolutely unbelievable. This is the paint I was originally using, this number 27, green 27. And I didn't have much left in this can, so I went down the road and I bought another one, and it's got new packaging and everything. It says number 27 leaf green on there, so that it's probably the same. Still says it's number 27. It's nothing like the right colour, but luckily there are 2 Mr. DIYs around here, and so I just stuck down the other one. They had the right stuff, so now it's the right colour again. Alrighty, so before I assemble this spindle again today,
thought I'd just show you a few things that I hadn't showed you before. These are the holes that I put in there for knocking the cones out with. This is the smaller one that came out a bit further up the side, but I don't know if you can see that. You can just see the edge of the ring, the cone in the bottom there, maybe, but that'll take a 4mm pin punch so you can knock them out. For anyone wondering why I'm using this B16 taper in here, well, I bought it a long time ago, and I don't expect that will stay on there if I really start hopping into something. So what I've done is I've drilled and tapped the end of that, and I'm going to Loctite a cap screw in there to hold it on, or to make sure it doesn't come off. And this face mill I've been using in the lathe, the new arbor arrived for that yesterday. Now all these arbors are threaded 10mm, so I'll be able to bolt them all in. I don't know that the Morse Taper 2's really strong enough for it, but it's going to have to do because I already had half of the stuff and I wasn't about to replace it all. So I'll get on with putting all this back together again. Well viewers, there it is, all set up. I still haven't put these 2 grub screws in here, and a little bit of play in there, so I might end up having to do that, put them in there. But just a little worried that they could come undone when it's spinning. If you'd enjoyed this this project up until this point, this video, how about giving it a great big thumbs up and smashing that like button. And before I forget, the next episode is going to be, well, I'm going to have a crack at some lost foam aluminium casting, because I want to try and cast up my own pulleys for this. So I may or may not get a video out next week, because I've got to make some things and go and buy some things, and whether I get it done by next Friday will be another story. But anyway, so there it is. Pretty happy with that all up, and make sure you come back for episode 6 whenever I get that out, and we'll see how we go. Thanks for watching, and see you again next time.